Hey everyone, so I once again have a list of garden tasks that I've been putting off, so I'm gonna go ahead and get those done today. And what's nice about the weather now is I think we're in like the mid 70s for the high, which means I can do the garden work anytime during the day and not be absolutely covered in sweat by the time I'm done. So let me go take you around and I'll show you what is on the to-do list for today. So first up on the list is something I should have done already, but basically I have to go through and thin all of these radish seedlings. I think it's going to be about an inch spacing between each of the seedlings that I'll need, and obviously we are much closer together than that. So that'll be the first thing I do. I also have to pull a couple plants. So the first one I'm going to pull is this pumpkin right here. You know, I tried my best, I held out hope for it, and it's just basically dying. I've mentioned this before, but I've had a lot of cucumber beetles up here, and every time they end up on a plant, the plant starts to wilt and die pretty soon after. I didn't get even a single pumpkin to set on here, so I'm just gonna go ahead, call it a loss, and pull it today. Two other plants I think I'm gonna pull, I don't know, I'm going back and forth, are the okra. Not because they look terrible, but because I'm kind of over okra. We've been getting so much, and I think I want to pull these just to make space for some more fall vegetables, but we'll see. I might just leave them as they are. And then another thing I have to do right behind it, this okra plant, I have this empty 30-gallon grow bag where I pulled a cherry tomato plant, and I want to put some, I think, lettuce in this bag just to use up the space. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll begin with thinning the radish seeds. So to thin them, I'm just going to use these scissors. I find them easier to use than pruners just because the blades are longer. And basically, now, ideally if there weren't this many, I would just go in and find the strongest one of a little cluster and then remove the ones around it. But because I have so many in here, I'm first just going to go through and kind of clear out the space first, and then I'll worry about going in and just narrowing it down to the actual strongest seedlings. So basically I'm just going through, and every time I see a large clump, which that's basically all these are, I'm just going to go through and start trimming out some chunks, and then I will save these and probably eat the radish leaves in a salad, but that way all of the seedlings that I'm not using aren't going to waste. Everything has now been thinned in this bed for the radishes, and it's really important to make sure you do thin these out, especially with root vegetables, because that's the part of the vegetable that's going to develop. So if the seedlings are too close together, then there's not going to be enough room for the actual root of the plant, or in this case, the radish, to grow to its full size. Also, I ended up with a bunch of microgreens I'm going to be able to use in salads and smoothies. So we are done with everything in this bed. Let's go ahead and start removing some of the dying plants. Now it's time to say goodbye to this pumpkin. There are, some leaves that look okay, but yeah, this plant is just basically not doing much, and the majority of it is dead. I was really excited though to actually have pumpkins for fall decor that I didn't have to buy from a store and that I was able to grow, but this year is not going to be that year. So basically what I'm going to do is cut this into smaller pieces, pull out the roots, and then put them all in this garbage bag. And something that's nice about living in Chicago is that if you have any yard or garden waste, you basically can submit a request on 311, letting them know that you have this waste. You bag it up just like you would anything else, and then we leave our bags next to the trash can, and they basically come and pick up your yard waste and compost it. So that's a really nice option if, like me, you aren't composting on your own yet. However, I think that's going to be on my garden to-do list for next year, so I'll probably spend a good part of the winter researching that, and then hopefully I can compost everything on my own next year, but we'll see. So let's go ahead and get this plant removed. So I just wanted to quickly show before I threw this away, but the roots of the pumpkin were actually really small. Like, it wasn't even much bigger than the actual size of the container when I planted it. So overall, just didn't seem like this plant was doing very well, but we'll try again next year, maybe get some pumpkins. Not this year though, unfortunately. I've also decided that I am going to pull out the 2 containers of okra. There's actually 3 plants total, and just something interesting. You can see how thick the stem of this okra plant is compared to these 2 which I planted together. And I'm not sure if there was really a difference in productivity, but it's always just interesting to see how things compare when they get their own space to grow versus kind of sharing their space. So I'm gonna go ahead, harvest whatever okra is left that I can still eat, and then we'll pull these plants as well. The okra plants have been removed, and I can't believe how much space I have here now. Although I'll probably end up moving, so I have 2 bags of beets here over, because now I have all of these empty drip emitters. So there's 1 here, 2 along the back. Again, I'm going to sow probably lettuce seeds in here. And then let me just turn around over here. Pumpkin bag, I'm also going to plant some seeds in for the fall. I've left the 2 root balls of the okra out for now just because the soil is wet, so I'm going to let them dry in the sun, and then after they've dried out I'll put them in the bag just because they're a little bit lighter that way. So that's what I'm leaving those 2 there for now. And then from the okra, because the root system was so thick, I basically have 2 empty bags, and I think I'm just going to leave these empty for the rest of the year, and I'll make a whole separate video as far as how I go about cleaning and storing my grow bags to use them in the next growing season. I've also just decided that now the okra is moved, I have easier access to the giant marigold mountain. So I'm going to go through and deadhead some of the things there that need to be deadheaded now that I have better access. Marigolds are looking a bit better now. This one back there looks a little bit dead, but it's still pretty hard to reach. And I also keep forgetting that there is still a tomato plant in the middle of these marigolds. I actually was able to dig in there and grab one out, and then there's another tomato growing there. There's probably more in there that I need to carefully check for, but one thing I'm definitely looking forward to about next year is not growing giant marigolds around the crops I need access to. And on a totally unrelated to anything note, my raspberry bush is finally starting to produce raspberries, which have a connection to my childhood because I grew up with bushes in the backyard. So it's exciting to have them in my own garden, but also they taste so much better than they do store-bought, although I love them store-bought as well. So here's what I'm thinking as far as seeds I'm going to plant. I have 2 bags of beets already, but I really like beets, so I think I'm going to basically finish up this seed packet and put it in the bag where the pumpkins were, and then in the tomato bag I'm going to do just a mix of lettuce and cabbage together. So let's go ahead and get these in the containers. So for beets in this, I think it's a 10-gallon bag, what I'm going to do is just make a circle around the outside with my finger, make a little circle in the middle, and then just sow the seeds in those areas. And then obviously once they start to sprout, I'll thin them just like I did with the radish seeds. So we'll just pop a couple here, and then in that little divot that I created with my finger. All right, now I'm gonna cover them up. And the soil is moist right now, but I am also going to add a little bit extra water with the hose once I've gotten all of the seeds sown. So both of these seed packets, I need to sow the seeds 1/4 inch deep. The lettuce needs to be thinned to 8 inches apart, the cabbage 16. So I think what I'm going to do is put the cabbage around in a ring on the outside, since that needs to be further apart, and then I'll sow the lettuce seeds more towards the center. And for this, I'm just making a hole with my finger, kind of where I'm gonna sow the seeds, and then I'll go ahead and put about 2 to 3 seeds per hole and then get those covered up. So that's everything I had to do on my list for today, but the last thing I need to do is clean up the mess I've made. So I'll show you what it looks like now, and then once I get things organized, I'll show you what it looks like then. So here's what we're looking like now. I actually did get a rose tree that I'm really excited about, so I've added that to the garden right there. I basically have some plants on the ground that I moved from when we had the strong winds last night. My garbage can's out. I have random containers sitting every which way, so let's go ahead and do some quick garden cleanup. And everything is now much more organized, and it feels a lot better too because there's just more space to move. So I had a bunch of containers kind of gathered up here that were crowded. I ended up moving my grape plant over there because now that the sun is getting lower in the sky, it wasn't getting as much light as it needed in the corner. I've moved 2 bags of beets here, hooked up to drip. 2 strawberry plants I shifted over there. And now I just have a nice space to walk through here. So that's what this side of the garden looks like. And then everything over here is also nice and tidy. So thank you so much for following along with me today. That's going to be everything for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.